What really happened in the creation of the first movie set in Middle-earth? The Fellowship of the Ring introduced the world to a live-action dive into the adventure of Frodo, Gandalf, and co. But like every movie, there was a tale or two to tell behind the camera as well. So we've cherry-picked some of the most fun and interesting. Let's see if you knew any of these already. Number 10. Jake Gyllenhaal auditioned for Frodo! Yep, before the likes of The Day After Tomorrow and Brokeback Mountain, the early days of powerhouse actor Jake Gyllenhaal saw him trying out for the lead hobbit in what would go on to be one of the biggest franchises to grace our screens. Gyllenhaal revealed during an interview that his agents excitedly put him forward to audition for Frodo once it was confirmed that the trilogy was in the works with director Peter Jackson at the helm. Needless to say, it did not go well. The actor mentioned that the audition script was centered on a scene with Frodo discovering the ring inside something, and it having no dialogue, just stage directions. Gyllenhaal was said to have basically just skipped over everything that could make it exciting and blew his shot at being the movie's ring bearer. Peter Jackson also noted that the actor was supposed to have been told to do a British accent, before apparently calling Gyllenhaal out for how bad his acting was. Ouch! Of course, the man born to do the role, Elijah Wood, went on to audition as well and nailed his read-through, probably by diving into those stage directions, Jake. Number 9. Viggo Mortensen did his own stunts. Aragorn is known to be one of the main badasses of the trilogy, and so it's only fitting that the actor playing him is as much of a badass. Maybe it's just a touch of method acting? For filming of the movie, Viggo Mortensen made it clear that he wanted to do his own stunts for filming, and he went pretty hardcore with it. The actor was not willing to use aluminum and rubber swords that were specially manufactured for the battle and stunt scenes. Mortensen insisted on using only real swords for his action scenes. Yep, real sharp bits and all of that. Can you imagine the sweat running down the backs of the guys playing the orcs he would be fighting? Number 8. The movie studio insisted on a pretty short prologue. One of the main and powerful inclusions in The Fellowship of the Ring is the opening section that explains the background of the One Ring and where it's traveled before the events of the movie. However, it may not have been as profound as it is if the studio had things their way. New Line Cinema requested that the prologue telling the history of the rings, Sauron, and how Bilbo came into possession of the One Ring be whittled down to just 2 minutes long. Though Peter Jackson and his team tried their best, the least they could get it down to was 7.5 minutes. Thankfully, after viewing it, New Line Cinema saw the light and allowed this version to make it into the movie. Number 7. Big names were offered a role, but turned it down. Could any of us really imagine the former 007 or Professor X sporting a cloak and fighting off orcs? Of course we could! It's Sir Sean Connery and Sir Patrick Stewart. You can probably guess which role he was up for, too. What? No, it wasn't Legolas. Connery was offered the chance to play Gandalf the Grey for a whopping $10 million, but ultimately gave Peter Jackson a no, as he didn't understand the story properly. Fair enough. When it came to Stewart, it basically came down to the fact that the actor didn't like the script. This was coming from the guy who went on to star in X-Men: The Last Stand. Well, the fans got the last laugh. Another Sir, in the shape of Ian McKellen, eventually won the role, even though he'd originally turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with the first X-Men movie. Number 6. Sir Christopher Lee was very keen to be a part of the franchise. It's not every day that you see acting royalty giddy over being in a fantasy movie. Well, when it came to Christopher Lee, there was a big reason for it. Lee was the first actor to be cast and was actually a big fan of the books, having read The Lord of the Rings once a year every year until his death in 2015. He was actually the only member of the cast and crew to have met J.R.R. Tolkien. Nothing to be sniffed at, right? It's fair to say that Lee was fully engaged with production and even visited the makeup department frequently, often giving tips about the facial designs for the different monsters. Given the extensive knowledge he had of the books, who wouldn't want to listen? Number 5. There was debate over whose voice would be heard in the prologue. We've already mentioned how important the prologue is in the movie, and so what was even more important was deciding who would be providing the narration over it. Originally, Elijah Wood's Frodo was set to do the talking, but it was felt that the information imparted had little bearing on the character. Sir Ian McKellen also recorded a version for Gandalf to be the narrator, but again, something was missing. It was realized that both Frodo and Gandalf didn't feel right because they weren't present during the events that viewers would be told about. This led to Cate Blanchett's Galadriel being chosen for the voiceover work, as the character was present during the events, and it would also emphasize the timelessness of the elves. Number 4. There were some methods used to portray the chubby hobbits. We all know hobbits pretty well, right? Short stature, hairy feet, pointy ears, and big guts. Well, some of our actors pulled out some dedication to portray them. No, they didn't get hair transplants in their feet. Nope, didn't get plastic surgery to point their ears. No, they didn't contact scientists to miniaturize them in the name of cinema. You know what? Let's just go straight to the facts, please.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Sean Astin, actor of Samwise Gamgee, did the extreme and packed on a whole 30 pounds to portray Frodo's best pal and traveling companion. Oh, how we all feel sorry for Astin getting into shape for a role by downing cans of Coke and indulging on hot dogs and cakes. Maybe Hugh Jackman will get to do prep for a role like that one day. Dominic Monaghan, who portrays Merry, well, his was actually easier. Monaghan wore a fat suit made entirely of foam to give the impression of a starchy gut. However, he did need to drink 3 liters of water a day in order to keep from dehydrating. No wonder those hobbits always seemed to be running. Merry was probably leading the charge and then running to the bathroom at the sound of cut. Number 3. Hobbiton was built a year before production. If there's one thing you can't knock Peter Jackson for, it's his drive for authenticity. In order to make Hobbiton look as natural and lived in as possible, the village of the hobbits was built a year before the camera started rolling. There were even real vegetable patches added in. Pretty cool, right? Plus, in the most hobbity fashion ever, the greens department stayed on top of the grass length by having sheep eat it regularly. Since wrapping on the movies, Hobbiton has since been built into the infrastructure of where filming took place, and now fans can actually visit there. Be right back, just booking myself a ticket to New Zealand. Number 2. There's more to the Elvish language spoken in the movie. The language of the elves sounds kind of beautiful when spoken in the movie, doesn't it? Well, if you must know, a lot of care went into how it would be heard on the big screen. The language wasn't just quoted from the book, but was also derived from the limited dictionary of the language owned by none other than J.R.R. Tolkien himself. Dialect coach Andrew Jack actually used recordings of Tolkien reading his books to help in guiding the stars of the movie in the language's pronunciations. And what a spot-on job they did! Number 1. Sir Ian McKellen showed his dedication to acting in one scene particularly. Ever heard of those happy accidents on movie sets that end up making it into the movie? Yep, this is one of those times. You'll notice during the scene where Gandalf reunites with Bilbo Baggins and enters his home that the Grey Wizard bumps his head on a ceiling beam due to his height in the hobbit-sized household. Yeah, that wasn't scripted. McKellen banged his head on the beam accidentally. But this isn't just any actor giving himself a sore head. This is Ian freaking McKellen. Director Peter Jackson actually thought that McKellen did a great job of acting through the mistake, and the moment was kept in the movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't beat the famous Stormtrooper head bump of 1977. If you know, you know. Did you know any of those facts? Surprised by any? Have any of your own? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comment section below and impress us.